Okay, here we go. Yes. Welcome to Parent Conversations. I'm Megan. I'm the Assistant Director with My Discovery Destination, and we are holding Parent Conversations because of generous grants from the Bear River Health Department, Central Utah Public Health Department, and the Davis Public Health Department. Shirley, correct me if I got that name wrong. I think it's Davis. Anyway, I can't remember. All of a sudden, the acronym just left probably because I'm
Davis County Health Department.
Thank you, Davis County Health Department. You know, you're live on camera and things just fly away. Today, we're starting a 9-week series on digital wellness, and today will be the subject is starting with your center. Our guest speaker is Michelle with Epik Deliberate Digital, and we are going to get started, jump right in and turn the time over to her. And while her camera's not working on Zoom today, she does have some slides and should be able to share her screen. So Michelle, go ahead. And oh, one more thing, if you have any comments, raise your hand, put it in the chat, or wait until we take a pause and submit them, or combination of the three will work for us. So I will be monitoring and watching the chat box, and we'll go from there. Michelle, it's all you.
Okay, let's see if we can get this to, I've been working in the background to get to close some files to see if we can get this to go. Jan, I may need you to pull up your version.
Okay, yeah, if I can get that access to.
Yeah, can you pause the recording for just a sec? Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties. Thank you for being here. We're so excited to be here with you and to start this series, Bringing Digital Wellness Home. As Megan said, our theme today is Start with Your Center, but we'll give you a little bit of an overview through today's presentation as well. Go ahead with the next slide. Throughout this series, we hope that you'll keep this quote from Viktor Frankl in mind. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is the power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. To us, digital wellness is a means to be able to create more space in our lives so that we can use and reclaim our power to choose. So for today's gathering, we'll do a brief getting to know you activity. We'll give you an overview of what we'll be covering in the coming weeks. And then we have 2 activities for our discussion. Some will include some thought activities and others discussion. The water we swim in, we'll talk about what it means to live in a digital world and share our thoughts with each other about that. And then we'll do what we're calling a defining my center exercise. And then if we have time at the end, we'll do group discussion and reflection. So we invite you to have a paper and pencil or some writing utensil ready, because we'll be inviting you to write and engage with that. So first, a brief getting to know you that we'll just do really fast around the room. I know that some of you know each other, but we don't know you, and you don't know us yet. So I will start and just kind of model how this will flow. We'll share our name, how many children you have, if applicable, and a favorite hobby or talent. So I'm Michelle. I have 3 adult children, and I love to sing.
I'll go next. I'm Jan Garpiet, and I have 8 children, and a favorite hobby of mine is genealogy.
I'll go next. My name is Megan. I have 4 adult children and 5 grandkids, and one of my favorite hobbies is yoga.
My name's Emily. Oh, sorry, Shirley.
No, you
My
go
name's
ahead, Emily.
I have one 1-year-old, and one of my favorite hobbies is online scrapbooking.
And I'm Shirley Griffiths. I have 8 children, and I have to throw in 24 grandchildren because I love that. And my hobby is, you know what, it's just creating on computers. I love to create.
So I see Catherine and Melissa still.
I'm Catherine, and I have 5 kids, ages 8 to 1 month old. And let's see, what was the other thing? Favorite hobby or talent? Currently, don't really have very many hobbies other than kids, but I used to be an illustrator. Well, by training, so I love doing art stuff.
Awesome. And Melissa. Oh, Melissa's in the chat. My name is Melissa. I have 4 children from teens to a toddler, and we have a lot of pets. Awesome.
Yeah, Melissa's audio doesn't always work, so we like it when Melissa.
Well, my video's not working today, so we're a good pair today, Melissa. Thanks for using the chat. Okay. Earlier this year, so Epik has been around for 7.5 years, and as our name implies, deliberate digital is our focus. We want to focus on using technology for good. That hashtag use tech for good that you sometimes see in My Discovery Destination. That's been a key focus. And this year, because of changing legislation that included digital wellness, we chose to be trained in digital wellness. So I'm certified by the Digital Wellness Institute to educate about digital wellness. And these are 3 models that the Institute uses. We were trained on the one to the farthest to the right of your screen with the 8 prongs. For our series, we actually focused on the 6-prong wheel because it matches to the survey that the Digital Wellness Institute created, which we hope that you have seen and have access to. It's been shared in your groups, but we can also share in after communications. We'll be encouraging you, if you haven't taken the survey already, to take that so that you have a baseline and a measuring tool that you can use throughout this series. And our model is adapted from that 6-prong model. Then this is a picture of our model. We'll get to that a little bit later. So the topics that we'll be covering, if we can go to the next slide, are the following. So today we're starting with start with your center. You can see in the training that we received, they often talked about, okay, well, be sure to make decisions based on your values, but they never talked about identifying them and having a clear sense for what that means. So our model starts there. So we start with our center, and then we'll discuss over the coming weeks mental and physical wellness, honoring time, productivity. So not just working well, but how do we use our time? Does the use of our time and our energy match our values? Relationships, which of course is central to what you are doing and why these parent conversations exist. Overall well-being with respect to digital life, digital citizenship, which is how we engage with other people online, and including civic engagement. And then we have a bonus section on media literacy, which, if you glance at the model, is folded throughout the model. It's a skill that we feel is just critical to not only living in a digital world, but just living in a world where we're bombarded with messages all the time. And there's a link to the survey, which again, we can share out to the group after as well. As we go through digital wellness, we use digital centeredness. Our model, we're calling it a digital centeredness model to reinforce this idea of constantly using your center as your guide, your compass. But I'll use digital centeredness and digital wellness interchangeably. 3 ideals of digital wellness are in the Digital Wellness Institute. They use knowledge, embodiment, and empowerment, but I translated that to learn, practice, and share. It's a lot simpler for a family setting. We encourage you, as parents, we tend to have our focus go straight to our kids. Oh no, technology, I'm worried about it. What do I do for my kids? And of course, that's important. Digital wellness invites us to put our oxygen mask on first, to learn and practice so that we are getting the principles in ourselves, and we can show by example and walk with our children, not just sharing information at them, but engaging in this process with them, because digital wellness is something we all need. It's not just something for the kids to practice. And if they see us practicing it, the likelihood of them engaging with us goes up. I don't have the direct quote because I just wanted to talk about the concept, but network science shows that when we make changes in our individual lives, we can impact people 3 degrees out, even if we don't know those people. So James Fowler talks about, if I make changes, I can change my son's life, and I could change my son's friend's life, mother's life, and I could change my son's friends' mother's friends' lives. So we just never know the impact that we can have when we make changes in our individual lives. So here is our model again. I'm not going to talk in detail about what's in the rings today, but you'll notice that it's pretty chaotic. It's noisy. This is intentional because the world that we're living in and the digital impacts on our world are noisy. You can glance over the ideas about the types of things and icons that represent the messages, and to use Viktor Frankl, the stimuli constantly available to us and constantly coming at us if we're connected online in any way. And so part of the model and part of today's discussion will be about being aware of that water we swim in. This attention economy is what it's called, if you've seen The Social Dilemma, which we also encourage taking advantage of. It's available on YouTube until the end of the month for free. The more aware of the world we swim in, the water we swim in, the more aware we are, the more we can make deliberate decisions about it. We use the phrase water we swim in because a lot of times we don't realize fully what is going on and how the technology is designed to grab and keep our attention. And that can throw us off center. So we'll talk about that today. And then, like I said before, we will do some define your center activities that we hope you might take home. And then in coming weeks, we'll talk about the simple tools around these different areas like mental, physical health, relationships, time management, things like that. All right, so activity number 1, the water we swim in. This is a quote from David Foster Wallace. I'll use him twice today. There are 2 fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, how's the water?" And the 2 young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one looks over at the other and says, "What the heck is water?" Again, we often don't even fully realize what water we swim in, because this is what it means to be in a culture. This is what it means to be in an environment. But awareness is one of the greatest tools we have in an attention economy. So our first question today is, so if you can pull out your paper and pencil and just spend maybe 30 seconds with this question. What forces do you notice or experience in the water of our digitally driven world? Or to use Frankel's language, what kind of stimuli do you either observe or find impacting you in today's world? So for example, for me, Facebook fragments my life. I do not know what to do with Facebook. And I struggle with negative news and sifting through conflicting information that's being shared. So take a minute and write down the forces that you're noticing. And then we'll have a brief discussion about that. In fact, if we can turn off the screen share for a second, I'd love to be able to have each other, so that you can see each other as we have a little discussion. And yeah, if you want to use the chat to be your notepad, that works too. All right, so just like we did with introductions, I'd like to just quickly go around the Zoom and have everybody share at least one thing that that they're noticing is pulling at them from the water we swim in. I'm going to go in order of whom I see. So Catherine, would you like to share? Okay, we'll go on to Emily.
I was just saying that we use a lot of Marco Polo in our family, which is fun because my parents live across the country right now. But sometimes I want to update on them on everything that's happening. So that could be good. And it's nice that it's documented, but it also can interfere with being in the moment if, we're doing something as a family.
I can relate to that. Jan.
I wrote down email. Sometimes, it's so helpful, but sometimes it can take up so much of my day. And I actually really wanted to do some other things.
That's very common. Something that showed up in our course, in fact. Megan.
Oh, I was just thinking about how the various messaging apps, whether it's, the Messenger app on my phone or Facebook Messenger, how, and sometimes a phone call itself can just pull me, because we have a cell phone on us all the time, right? I'm concentrating on something and it just reaches in and pulls me and distracts me and keeps me from being probably the most, oh God, it's showing my age here. Most productive that I can be because I'm constantly interrupted.
Yes, you're going to like the productivity section. We've got some tips for that.
Oh, good.
Melissa. Okay, we'll go to Shirley.
I think the thought that came to my mind was there's just so much of everything. And of course, notifications, I have been very, very aware since, since we did, I've actually kind of been through these discussions. And I've been very aware of the notifications that come and how they're tailored to me. They're trying to get me back on the distraction mode. And get me back on YouTube. They're showing me notifications about the things that I've been or whatever. But I just think, I love the fact that we can do everything in Zoom and we can have conferences in Zoom and all of that. But that just means there is so much more than you can fit in one life.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. Okay, if we can go back to screen share, I think everybody can empathize with the tensions here and that we are pulled in so many different directions. All right, so here's another thought question. This one I'll just invite you to reflect in just to yourself for a second. But what's the state of the internal water you're swimming in? What's the impact on your emotional, mental, stress level? What's going on inside, not just because of the digital world, but at any given moment or in patterns over time, what we experience internally can impact the impact of what's going on externally as well. So throughout this course, I invite you to remember this, that we but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer body are to be found in the world of our body. If we can change ourselves, the energy we send out, I like this little graphic, the energy we send out, we can have an impact. The tendencies in the world also change as we change inside. And we need not wait to see what others can do. So sometimes people will see the social dilemma and it'll be, okay, well, the tech companies need to do this, or, so-and-so needs to stop sending me so much stuff, but our whole approach to this is we can make choices that can impact our well-being and again can impact and flow out and in unknown ways, not always seen ways. We can have direct influence on our children, we hope, but we can have influence on the culture around us if we become more well and more deliberate. So I love that quote from Gandhi. Okay, so yeah, we've covered this. And we do have more materials from our pilot if any of you are interested. Okay, so as we think about the water we swim in, keep being alert and aware. And over the course of the next several weeks, we'll be talking more about that and about things that we can do to reclaim our attention and our lives more. Today, the rest of our focus is going to be on some defining your center activities. So we'll just jump right into those, actually. Starting with this quote from an excellent book I would recommend called Lead Yourself First. This is a leadership book, and he includes parents, thankfully, in his definition of leaders. So he says, a leader, a parent in our setting, needs to have presence, to show up to the moment grounded in oneself, as centered as one can be, ready to hear, to listen, to discern. And I, of course, can't speak for each of you, but I can only imagine that this resonates with the kind of parent that you want to be. And in fact, I honor the fact that you take the time in these discussions and these parent conversations that are provided to learn how to be a more deliberate parent, because it matters so much to each of us. So in our defining my center activities today, we're going to reflect on three different W words, or three different concepts. First, my why, like getting to the real core. Like what is it? What media help you define and come back to what your why is about? We'll talk about then the who. Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? So what kind of person do I want to be? And lastly, what matters most to me in terms of how and where I want to spend my time and energy, roles and goals and those types of things. So media literacy, when we talk about media literacy, and again, we'll be talking about this later in the series, but when we talk about media literacy, a lot of times people don't talk about the media that have impacted and influenced your life. So often when we think about starting young, teaching our children, trying to help them learn and internalize values and start to develop their own sense of an internal compass, we start with books. We start with media. This is a reflection question. Take a second to think about what books, what art, what music, what media forms help you. This is sometimes called a touchstone, where, when things get rough, when you lose your center, where you feel off kilter, where you feel the external stimuli pulling at you, or internal stimuli pressing at you, where do you go? Where do you go to get centered in terms of media? That this could be religious text, this could be again, artwork or other forms of media that help you stay grounded. I'm just going to give you a couple seconds to just think about that. And you can picture what's in your house, what's on your bookshelves, what you read regularly or engage with regularly, what kind of music you put on. Throughout this course, and at times when you're feeling off kilter, I invite you to deliberately leverage these core media, these touchstones. Okay, we learned something really exciting about centering and about defining our centers and being values-based, using our compass. That when we take time to write about our values, This is one of the most effective psychological interventions ever studied. They've researched short and long-term impacts. And people who write about their values once, even for 10 minutes, can show benefits months or even years later. That's from Dr. Kelly McGonigal. So we are going to invite you to write about your values. Can we go to the, okay, so this is a compiled list. I curated this from multiple resources, from Brene Brown, from Kelly McGonigal, from Jason and Lisa Frost, who focus on value-centeredness for youth. I used several different resources to compile this list. So we got input from a lot of different sources. I invite you to take a few minutes, maybe a minute, half, 2 minutes to glance over this list and write down 3 that stand out to you. If there's one that you are already working on, or something that comes to mind that is on the list, of course, write that down. These are the who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? These are attributes or characteristics of the kind of person that you want to try to be. And you can focus on something that you feel like you already, a strength that you already have and that you want to keep working on as your center, or something that maybe you're working toward. If you can just verbally let me know when you're ready.
I picked 3.
Awesome, Megan. I realize some of you may be listening kind of in the distance with kids in the background or other things, so that's fine too. And in fact, if it would work better, we can give this as a homework assignment. What do you think, Megan? Since some may not be available to do this.
I think it might be fun to include the graphic that you just shared when I share the replay link.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
So
I've already taken a screenshot of it, Megan. So
oh, you're so good, Shirley.
And we're gonna send you the link to these slides. So
awesome.
That, I think, let's do that so that we can also involve more people. So to those who are rewatching, pick 3, or again, if you have others that come to mind. And then the invitation, Jen, if you can go ahead and flip, is to write, set a timer and write for 10 minutes. Pick one of those values, those attributes, those characteristics, and write about it for 10 minutes. Simple activity, but again, the research shows that this can have lasting impacts for months or even years after the activity. Certainly not something that you only need to do once, but we invite you to take the time to do it and to invite your family to do the same. So because you'll have access to that list, you can do it with your older children. And if you have younger children, you could help them kind of brainstorm and help them draw or in some other way represent that value, so that they can practice revisiting, like, what kind of person do I want to be, you know? And you can use that as a discussion tool as well for other settings, not just with digital health. The research, as I read through Kelly McGonigal's explanation of the research in her book, she also talked about creating or having artifacts that can remind you of your values. So here we see a bracelet called an intention bracelet where you can write the word in, put it in the capsule. Somebody, took masking tape and put their words up on a wall with flowers. You can use a letter board, a keychain, magnetic letters, sticky notes, any number of things to visually remind you so that value or those values stay present in your visual space. Using all of our senses is one way to be well. So this is coming back to, so we've covered the why, like your core purpose, what media and resources help you define and remember and revisit your center, your core center, your why. We've talked about the who you want to be, how you want to show up in the world. Now we'll talk about what matters most to me. This is back to David Foster Wallace. He says the capital T truth is that the real value of life has everything to do with simple awareness. Awareness is of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around all the time, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. This was a graduation speech given years ago, and his whole idea was, yep, we're swimming in this water that kind of blindly impacts us, that we're almost in a trance to, but we can come awake and create through our deliberate action. We can create our water and choose how we want to live our lives. So again, I'll invite you to take just a few minutes. We can go to the next slide to write down what are two or three of the real and essential things that matter most to you. Because we didn't do the 10-minute writing, I'm going to go ahead and just have you take a minute and write these 2 to 3 items. So for me, for example, it's my faith, my family, and wellness. Digital wellness, of course, but wellness, my inside out wellness in particular. So do one or two of you want to share the what's that are coming to mind for you?
This is Jan. Michelle and I kind of are on the same page with that faith and family. A third thing for me is service.
Thank you. I'm not sure if that was Megan or Shirley sharing the same thing. And I imagine again that the fact that you're here, family, spirituality, and education. Awesome, Catherine. Thanks for sharing. So you can see where we're going, the who I want to be. So if my family matters, how I show up with my family is the values activity of the characteristics and attributes element. Our values can include both who we want to be and what we want to be doing with our time in our lives. So you could even, as your homework assignment, write about both. 10 minutes for a who and a how, the who I want to be, and you could write 10 minutes about the what as well. I really liked what was said here. I'm assuming this is Shirley, that this could be a fun new adventure for families to enjoy this values exploration. I love that idea. And with young kids, you could act out words and then let them choose what resonates with them. Faith, family, and impact is another way. Awesome. So you'll have a new family adventure around values, around defining your center. Thank you for co-creating here with us, Shirley. All right, let's go on to the next slide. So we're going to review now where we've been and where we're going again. Today, we explored what it means to start with our center, to look at and become more aware of the world around us. That would be another discussion to have with your children, especially children who are a little older. But even young children can, they may have things to say about the way you use your technology and the impact it's having on them. I'd invite you to open up conversations about that and create a safe place in your home where you can talk together, not just parents talking at children, but where everyone can talk about how technology is impacting, not just in the negative ways. Like Shirley pointed out, there are positive things about technology, and we at Epik use tech for good hashtag and concept for a reason, because there are a lot of good things that can come with use of technology. It's just the why and how and for what that we use it, and being deliberate so that we don't waste time and lose energy and become fragmented or have the distractions pull us away from our center. Again, over the coming weeks, we'll discuss these other topics one at a time. They map to the survey. So the survey starts with mental wellness. It goes in order. So again, we invite you to take the survey. In fact, we can flip to the next slide. For preparation for next week's discussion, please do take that survey. If you want to include family members in that, that would be great. It's wonderful to have something concrete to use as a baseline and to measure your progress through the course of these coming weeks. As we've talked about, we invite you to share your experience, to first do the writing activity. If you choose to do it twice over, writing activities. So engage with that, and then engage your family in a way that feels good for what you know about your family and their personalities. And you might even include some sort of a craft activity. And we'll keep an eye out on My Discovery Destination for the adventure as well. And next week, we'll start a discussion with a check-in on how things went with these invitations. So this image, I said earlier that our model deliberately shows the chaos. It includes the chaos of the world around us, of the water we swim in. But the reason that we are excited about engaging with you about digital wellness is that we firmly believe that as we build and practice digital wellness skills, as we learn, practice, and share, that we can change the water we swim in from the inside out. And we can, again, become more well ourselves, more alert, more aware, more deliberate, more well. And then we are more able to teach those we care about the most and to share and invite them to build wellness habits. And by so doing, we can change the water we swim in personally and familially, and even have an impact on the culture around us. I'll end again with Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Like I said, we'll be revisiting this throughout the course. And we also love this quote: in the attention economy, mindfulness is activism. And we wish you well. Thank you so much for joining with us today. We do have just a few minutes. I think we need to end at 1:45. Is that true?
Yeah, give or take. A few minutes early is not a problem, and a few minutes over isn't usually a problem either.
Okay, so just open the floor for any thoughts, or just if anybody has anything to say or wants to discuss anything before we close.
I think you addressed everything that was in the chat. I look forward to seeing what Shirley comes up with as a Discovery Family Adventure to enhance what you have given us today. So thank you, Michelle. Does anybody have any questions or comments for her before we end our recording?
I might want to just chime in one more time on
Go ahead, Jan. Yep.
on the importance of that writing your values down. As Michelle said, you know, just 10 minutes can make a difference. And in the research that they've done, we didn't include the list of things that they've actually shown that it impacts, but it can impact somebody's GPA. It improves impact on physical health, and it can increase a sense of meaning during stressful times. So coping strategies, it can increase tolerance of pain. It's just kind of amazing if you understand where your center is and you can just keep turning back to that. And you know, because you've written it and you've reminded yourself of it, it's easier to go back there quicker when you're coming up against things. So I really, support Michelle and, you know, encouraging everyone to do that activity. It'll be fun to hear some of your thoughts next week.
Perhaps we're starting to form a new neural pathway by writing it down.
So Kelly McGonigal is a researcher on stress, and she turned her research 180 degrees from stress will kill you to you can work with your brain in ways that can change your life. That our brains are actually not the enemy, that we can work with them to reframe our mindset and to come at life with a different lens. And her book it's just fascinating. I've been studying brain science for a while, and it's one of those that just makes you stop and say, okay, I haven't understood this. But like she said, she had been doing her research in one direction for 10 years and then completely altered how she approached it. So
Catherine's asking what the book is called. I was going to ask that same thing. Remind us the
it's
title.
Called the Upside of Stress.
The Upside of Stress. Okay.
And she has a TED Talk as well. So Megan, I can work with you to kind of create a follow-up email or message or whatever so that we can include some of these resources, if that would be helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, I usually try and post the replays the same night or the next morning after. So anything you come up with this afternoon would be fabulous.
Okay, do you want me to send that by email then?
That works.
Jan, if I could get a list of those that you were mentioning, the benefits, I would love to include that in the adventure. And I think what I will do, I will try to have that adventure created today. And if you guys would like to do that with your families, I would love to have you do the adventure and give us some feedback on it, and maybe share how that went with your families.
That sounds great.
That'll be with our slides. We'll have that list.
And I can include it with the email to Megan as well.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. Join us again next Tuesday. It was Monday for quite a few months, but we're on Tuesdays for the foreseeable future. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for letting us be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.